Passion and impulse are closely connected. Our instincts tell us who we are as an artist. I've always had an internal compass that has led me to the next thing. Some will call it following your heart. See, the heart and mind of an artist requires a deep internal trust with oneself. This is because only you were meant to create what is uniquely yours. Art in any form is a message that comes from the inside out. It is deeply personal. We have to be connected to what is within to fulfill our destiny. It's something that can't be taught or bought. In life, we can have the most meticulous plan ready for execution, and yet there is still always room for something unexpected to occur. For some, this concept can be difficult to grasp, but the heart of the artist knows that the sweet spot between vision and planning is where the magic happens. I have always been the type of person that was open to co-creating with the universe. Because I understand that there is a bigger picture unfolding with every moment that is beyond my control. My mind has always been a balance between cerebral and abstract. I've always had a very vivid imagination. I also understand that to bring this imagination to life, it requires concrete decisions and even strategy. I remember reading an article about digital marketing when I was an undergrad. Ironically, I came across this article on Facebook. It discussed social media management and how companies were beginning to invest in this part of their business because it was increasingly becoming an essential function. I was about 19 years old and a sophomore in college. I honestly didn't think too much of it at the moment, but I found it intriguing and kept it in my back pocket. My intrigue was set in the fact that there could be a real job doing the things that are already a part of my daily life. Fast forward to 2 years later, after graduating, I took a masterclass online that taught people how to do social media management professionally. Once again, I didn't think too much of it because I simply like to learn. I didn't take this class with the intention of becoming a marketing professional or starting a business. I saw it and instinctually signed up because I simply was curious and wanted to know more. This was the very beginning of my journey of leaning into my curiosity without any consideration to where it would take me, which honestly reminds me of the Fool card in tarot. Back then, I didn't look at it as an impulse, but the more I reflect, there's a lot of impulsive actions that I've taken to get to where I am now. There's a dose of fearlessness there, a sense of courage that came so naturally to me. That is why I feel that our instinct shows us who we truly are. There were a lot of moments in my journey where I didn't really think twice about what I was doing because I knew very clearly that it was what I wanted to do. The desire to try something new was enough for me. I didn't really need more information. I didn't need to know what the outcome would be. For me, the most important asset I've had up until now was simply the experience itself. That was enough to fulfill me. That is the definition of personal freedom to me. Simply doing what you want because it fulfills you. That is true power. I naturally have a growth mindset. I truly believe that if you try anything and simply keep going, you can get good at it. Evolution is part of the human condition. No matter where you are in your abilities, your experiences are enough to help you inform you to make better ones in the future. During the same time, post-undergrad, I took an online digital photography course that was advertised on Instagram. Once again, I didn't take it with the intent of becoming a photographer. I took it with the intention of taking better street photos with my iPhone. I've never held a camera before in my life at that point. The class went over the basics of using a professional camera: ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. I began diving into YouTube videos, teaching myself more about the medium, quickly graduating YouTube University, as some call it. That summer, I got a random check in the mail. It was the second time in my life that I've seen a large amount of money at one time. At 21 years old, my first instinct wasn't to pay bills or even book a trip. The first thing I did was do research on cameras, watch reviews, and talk to my creative friends about if I should get a Sony or a Nikon. After much consideration, I ended up with a Sony a6000. Once again, even after I bought the camera, I never had the intent to become a photographer. Becoming a photographer was never part of the plan. After all, I had just gotten my degree in fashion business. Back then, blogging was a big deal. Do you guys remember the girls with Starbucks cups, infinity scarves, and riding boots? Yeah, I was gonna give those girls a run for their money. I knew I had my own unique style and was ready to deliver. The reason why I bought the Sony was back then because it was the blogger-friendly camera. I bought it to become a blogger, even an influencer, but certainly not a photographer. A few months later, I had simultaneously landed a social media internship at the Museum of Contemporary Art and did my first portrait session with a friend, who ironically now is an influencer. Two things I was very proud of because after all, I wasn't even trying. Things just flowed that way for me. The fruits of my impulses were beginning to make a tangible impact on my life. That is when I knew that trusting myself, the journey, and the process was something worth holding on to. This was when Ty Takes the World was born, an exploration between the world within and around us through visual art. I truly believe that self-expression unlocks the door to personal development. How can you grow as a human being if you don't know what you're capable of? This is the sentiment that keeps me going every day. I have many goals in life, but one that's on the top of my list is living up to my highest potential. Every fiber in my being wants to know. I want to see what's on the other side of becoming great. I have many advantages that those who have come before me didn't have. I am certainly living for myself, but I am also living for the people who couldn't because of the state that the world was in when their soul arrived. Since I have a very real chance at becoming my higher self in this lifetime, going in that direction only makes sense. As a Black woman, personal freedom is a form of generational wealth. The freedom to do what you want to do, not out of obligation or necessity, but freedom for freedom's sake. To explore one's own soul with no worldly restraints is groundbreaking. I am often told that I'm a free spirit. I have accepted this description amongst other things, but it wasn't until recently where I realized that my soul is truly free. I find myself often being misunderstood because other people's ego or the way they view themselves limit their perceived possibilities in life. People who think this way often feel that others should have the same limits that they have, which is not the case. We all have our own superpowers, and I encourage everyone in this room to use them accordingly, but most importantly, for good. Individuality is a superpower because no one can take it away from you. Your true soul's essence holds a unique print between space and time. We all have unique gifts and qualities that were meant to uplift the world. Some have a gift with words, some with music, some with visual art. The list of talents go on. You know you're tapping into your unique light when you naturally stand out. When no one can do it like you, that's how you'll know. The best part about being yourself is that you don't need a plan. The journey will unfold in the most beautiful way possible. Tapping into this part of yourself unlocks endless abundance because it doesn't require effort. It simply requires you to be true to who you are in each moment. Authenticity creates flow. You don't have to think or strategize when you're flowing, meaning you're capable of so much more. Being in your element will always yield the greatest outcome with the least amount of effort. This allows you to give back to the world in a tangible way while still having a full cup. When you don't have to think about planning or strategizing, your presence becomes the gift. Leaning into your authenticity naturally will inspire those around you to do the same. That is the impact. Leading by example will always leave a lasting impression. For example, when a child sees a parent doing something, the child is likely to mimic that behavior. Inspiration works the same way. We inspire others when we lean into who we truly are. When we accept ourselves for who we truly are, we give others the room to do the same. This is where the magic happens. This is where impulse meets impact. I truly believe that is my purpose in life, to help guide people to become more of themselves and lead by example. The more I explore myself, whether it's through photography, fashion, or business, each medium challenges me in some way, shape, or form in the most healthy way. I am forced to see myself fully and accept what I see. I am also forced to transform what I see into something completely new to make room for the untapped parts of myself that are being discovered along the way. Being an artist is the greatest gift in the world. To explore one's own soul without judgment is a gift. To get to define who you are in your own terms is a gift. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Whenever we embrace the personal growth of our own consciousness, our world expands. When our world expands, we're able to give it back as a gift to those who have yet to discover it. A life well lived is a verb, an action. As humans, we are magnets to our heart's desires. You know your heart is calling you to the thing if the mind is not necessary to make the decision. You know how they say when it comes to love, you just know? Well, the same goes for our dreams. Maybe I wasn't planning on becoming a photographer, but my heart knew. Maybe I wasn't planning on pursuing marketing, but my heart knew. The plan initially was to become a fashion designer, but taking on business was more fitting because my heart knew. Our hearts are the blueprint to our destiny, our life's plan. It is so important to follow the impulses that lead to the next. The journey is sometimes more important than the outcome because the plans that your heart has for you are far greater than one your limited mind has. I've created a 4-step roadmap that you can use to help guide your natural impulses to have a tangible impact. Think of it as the artistic journey of bringing what is within into the outside world. A symphony of our external world interacting with the external. The first step in this roadmap is discovery. This is that spark of curiosity that comes when you hear something fascinating. It's that random thing you hear on TV that raises your ears, or that chapter in the book that you can't get your mind off of. This is deeply personal because what resonates with all of us are different. The most important aspect of this is that one cannot wish to discover something they do not already know exists. This step is the conscious effort to expand on what has been brought to your awareness. Discovery is a form of activation. It's knowing that there is more out there ready to be found. This leads us to exploration, the action of traveling through an unfamiliar area in order to learn about it. Now that we've discovered what has piqued our curiosity, it's time to take a voyage into a new world. Exploration is the intuitive impulse we take to understand something for ourselves. This step emphasizes the actions behind our mind's thoughts. For me, this step would be taking an online course. For you, it could be binge reading, watching videos, seeking out people in the field that you can better understand the topic or activity you wish to know about. This part isn't about skill, but rather gaining knowledge. The part of the process where your ego takes a back seat. At this stage, you aren't worried about being good or what others will think. Your only focus is learning. That is when the genius occurs. Because the way you process and come to know something on your own terms will be your unique contribution to the craft later on. This is where the higher mind takes the lead. There is magic in this stage because you never know what you might find. This is where the gold is, but it's only up to you to find it. The third step of this roadmap is acceptance, embracing the truth of what you have learned. Are there gaps in your field of study? Is there more to be discovered? Are your findings what you expected them to be? Do you need guidance or industry insiders to find what you've been seeking? Part of this step is also assessing your capabilities, analyzing your strengths and weaknesses and accepting them and accepting where you are now. Will you need to change in order to become better? Is that something that you're willing to do? Acceptance helps us to stabilize the knowledge we've acquired about both ourselves and the world around us. That way, the next steps we take after that are grounded in what is truly possible. The last step of the process is application. This is where concept becomes tangible. Figure out how you can apply the knowledge you've gained in the real world. This is where you apply what you've learned. If you're curious about photography, go out and shoot. If you're curious about fashion, put together an outfit that you're proud of. This is where book smarts and street smarts collide. A book can teach you a lot, but it will never be able to override real-world experience. When we explore our interests, we expand from thinking that more is possible to knowing that more is possible. Applying what you've learned over and over again does not only hone your craft, but it gives you wings to fly. You expand as a human being because you both have the knowledge and experience to carry you through life. Applying your skills gives you confidence because you now know what you're capable of. Your abundance mindset will grow because all of a sudden you're trying things you've never done before and learning more about yourself along the way. Application and experience turns weaknesses into strengths. Anything we do in life that is exercised over and over again naturally becomes a muscle. So there you have it, a 4-step roadmap to assist in guiding your natural impulses to tangible impact. I find that a common thread amongst many great people is that they didn't know that what they were doing was great until they did it. They were just being themselves. These people chose to be in their element and ultimately to fly. When you're in your element, you don't have to think too much because you're allowing your spirit to take the lead. Our heart knows what the ultimate truth is. It is simply our job to honor that. In the beginning, I wasn't planning on pursuing marketing or photography. I simply stayed true to myself by leaning into my impulses, and that is what has gotten me to where I am today. Flow. I find it that we can learn a lot from over-planning because it isn't always what it's cracked up to be. I often think that if I would have let my ego get in the way, I wouldn't be as fulfilled as I am now. The ego loves to stick to the plan in order to protect our image and reputation. The ego only cares about the external. Is this job glamorous enough? Does it pay the big bucks? Will my family and friends agree with my decisions? Well, if I do this, I have to have the car, the home, and the partner to match. Our ego makes us consider things that don't truly matter at the end of the day. When we seek what the soul wants, that is where true fulfillment comes from. Sometimes people won't get that creative project you're working on, and that's totally fine, because the soul does not seek to be understood. It simply seeks to express its true essence. We live in a world that often tries to suppress that. That is why it takes courage to expand beyond not only our own limits, but the world's limits. Being our authentic self is where the magic happens, because then we become trailblazers, showing the world through inspired action what is truly possible in life when you follow your heart. A blueprint that everyone in this room is capable of pursuing. Thank you.